Kavitha, thank you so much for joining us today. As we begin, can you say a few words about your current role?
Sure. Hey, Amisha, thanks for having me. It's great to be here, of course. I as you know, I know my role currently as EVP of Customer Transformation Experience and Transformation here at Zscaler. I am responsible for global customer affinity programs, right? I look at making sure that our customers and our future customers who are, IT and security leaders of the G2K and public sector or agencies are actually having a very positive experience engaging us as a company through the full life cycle of that engagement. That ranges from thought leadership to advocacy programs to loyalty programs, as well as global events.
I understand. And so it sounds like it's both, it's something that would include both customer experience, enhancing value to existing customers, but also as part of the go-to-market motion, harnessing, as you mentioned, customer advocacy in spreading the goodwill and building the brand value and becoming it's almost a word of mouth for future customers as well. Is that, did I get this right?
Absolutely. The best marketing and sales tool is a happy or evangelist is a happy customer, right? And when you're when you're in the trenches, especially where we are with digitizing IT and the frontiers of cybersecurity right now, with looking at the way the threat landscape is, with a lot of the threat actors and adversarials and a lot of the I would say disruptive technologies that are being used also specifically for nefarious acts. It's really important to create an environment where we are openly sharing best practices, sharing commonly developed standards, knowledge on how operationalize, deploy, and expand on a lot of these technologies into and areas of development. So it's critical, to make sure that we're creating a community of I would say like digital pioneers and disruptors that are sharing with each other.
I understand. How did you get in this space? I noticed you had experience in marketing roles and technology companies, large and small. What was kind of the first step in this career?
Yeah, I'm actually a pretty untraditional marketer. I started, close to 3 decades ago as an engineer. I grew up in Australia, and my role as a systems engineer out in the field was really to take technologies, products that were being built and deploy them in a customer environment and make it consumable. And I think my first learning and realization was, and I grew up in Australia, so I was really covering Asia Pacific all the way from ANZ, Australia, New Zealand, all the way up to North Asia, right? And ASEAN and India. So 14 countries. And every country had, regulatory differences, nuances, different stages in their technology evolution, different budgetary requirements. And I think the resounding realization I had was that, wow, we're building products, obviously, but that are potentially not listening to our customers. And so from an integration and deployment perspective, I realized every single one of these were like a new experience and a new, almost like R&D in the field experience, right? So it got me very curious about asking questions around how are we building these products instead of building them and throwing them across the wall to be ingested in a customer environment. How is that decision really made? And so it piqued my interest and curiosity to want to get more and more into that product management role where you are defining products, you're defining and building products for customers. And I had the opportunity to come to the US 25 years ago and to take on a product management role. And at that time I was, I worked for Cisco and, I was with Cisco for about 11 years, in leading one of their service provider business units on the product side. So really had a firsthand experience defining, building, and products, managing a very sizable P&L of over 500 million at that time, and learned a lot of things about becoming a general manager, right? Already been in the section, like this, the part of the sales continuum where you're catching the ball. Now, like, how are we defining the ball on the play, right? Learned a lot about sales enablement, pricing, forecasting, messaging. And then, my career just evolved, and like evolved all of a sudden to, after engineering management and product, leading product team, into my first marketing leadership role, which is super unorthodox for a technologist to go down that path. But I did go in and build, go to market for Riverbed's first software business unit. That time, it was a massive pivot. I think it was a very humbling experience for me. A lot of technologists don't want to think of themselves as marketers. I think the humbling experience, which I had, like most folks, like I know, overlooked, was that this wasn't a soft science. It was actually a very sophisticated science, marketing. You have to bring a lot of these pieces together and really think about building that go-to-market engine, messaging, right? Articulating, creating categories, branding, AR, PR, sales. I mean, there was just so much to it. How are you enabling channels and partners? How are you looking at the competitive? So I think if you have to say, like, to me, like, this was actually kind of a cherry on the top, right? We brought a lot of things together. And I think with my unorthodox background, marketing background, was a perfect background to kind of set me up for go-to-market leadership, which I was able to pivot between, technical roles and go-to-market roles. That then I moved on to build go-to-market for 3 startups.
Interesting.
One that, was an acquisition by EMC, one that's still a massive unicorn at Databricks. I was the CMO of a DevOps CI/CD software company, and that kind of led me to, moving into this other expanded realm of customer experience and transformation here at Zscaler, and I've been with the company for 5.5 years as part of the team.
It's very interesting because I think having an engineering background gives you a very interesting vantage point, because these days not only gives you kind of a view into a very good understanding of the product, but also so many things are data driven or numbers driven, even on the go-to-market side. So I think it arms you with things that some other executives maybe who come in from the agency side may not necessarily have. So I think it's a major advantage in this regard. And speaking of technology, if you think broadly about kind of customer experience and customer advocacy, how does technology change this field, and how is it changing going forward with everything that's going on? What do you see from your position?
Yeah, I mean, let me preface that with, like, what we were just talking about in terms of technology and analytics, right? I think one of the fundamental things about the technology space and the technology education, right, whether it's like, a lot of STEM education, is the curiosity for, I would say, first principles problem solving, right? And I think that's the beauty of that kind of training, that gets you to think about. A lot of people say, I never use what I studied in college. Okay, I studied electrical engineering. I never use any of that stuff. I have 2 kids in college that laugh, and they say this all the time. I don't think I'm ever going to use any of what I'm learning. I think what people don't realize is it's that foundational mindset that you are building with that rigor and how you approach everything. That is what is priceless about that kind of academic learning, right? And I think if you have a natural curiosity. So coming to that, as we talk about technology, incorporating technology into shaping, customer experience, right? And advocacy. Look, first and foremost, technology is going to play a fundamental role in that, right? Whether we're building, analytics, technologies to monitor customer sentiment, measure engagement, and all of that, I think at the end of the day, these are really important, analytics and telemetry tools to put into how we foundationally do what we do. But let's think about this, right? We sell to human beings. We work with human beings. So prioritizing the customer and building a customer first culture in a company is fundamental, right? And doing that not just in the early sales stage or the onboarding stage, but really being thoughtful about how you're going to create a culture where this end-to-end experience is a top priority. It's foundation, has to be part of your DNA. It can't be superficial. And I think this is why I love and I'm enjoying seeing the evolution of some of these technologies that are being used for customer experience and, advocacy areas that are like now, especially as we're leveraging things like AI, et cetera, where we're really able to listen. A lot of customer listening tools are there. So, answering your question, it is having a fundamental effect and an impact on how customer experience is scaled in organizations, right? You understand who's buying, what they're buying. You can understand, levels within the organizations and personas that are engaging with you, from a front end perspective, and then a back end perspective. We're using these tools to measure, things like net promoter scores. We're looking at this in terms of our full life cycle engagement with them. So some super cool tech that's being built out there. I think that's really cool. I think the other piece of it is we always look at technologies, technology. We want to look at technology to be an enabler, not an inhibitor, right? And when you put new tech in, there's always this inherent concern around trust, as you see that with a lot of privacy laws that are being enacted, right? If you look at Europe, you look at GDPR, you look at, California, you have CCPA. I mean, there are a lot of privacy, regulations being put in place to actually manage this like minefield of, I would say, I don't want to like say marketing is bad, but it's like poor marketing practices, because people are buying lists and we've all done that before. And going out there and just not being thoughtful about how you're using these technologies and tools to reach, right? And so, I think there's kind of this, delicate balance of touch governance, cadence, how you're going to use technology, and how are you going to build trust with your prospect and customer base in terms of our online engagement with them. And
Absolutely.
I think, one of the things we are very focused on as a company here at Zscaler, we're a security company. So we're very mindful of security and privacy and trust. And is really looking at kind of the, how both on the prospect and the customer side, we are leveraging technology, right, in our stack, whether it's our marketing stack or our customer success stack, in terms of our, engaging and these different channels. As we use them for positive things, let's use them with control, right? Remember, there's a person at the other end, and through practices, you're going to shut the door. Right?
Absolutely, and kind of with this in mind, especially given you mentioned AI, it seems like no conversation about anything technology related or cybersecurity related or marketing, B2B marketing related, is complete without bringing AI in the picture. And I think the more and more prevalent these technologies start to play out in our daily lives, I think there's a premium on human experience in the world where, with deep fakes and various exploits, I think just shaking hands and looking someone in the eye and having a meaningful conversation face to face, I think it will be at a premium. And you did mention events as part of your strategy. And I think I saw on LinkedIn you had several posts about some of the events that appear to be part of your kind of general go-to-market strategy. How do you think of events, whether large-scale conferences like RSA that's coming up, or Black Hat, and some of them that maybe you're hosting on your own? How do you combine this with your efforts to drive your customer advocacy and use your customer base to spread the word and put Zscaler kind of front and center in front of potential clients?
Great question. So there are events, there are big conferences like RSA and Black Hat, et cetera, right? These are necessary. These are trade shows, conferences, where we go and hear from the industry, right? And engage with the industry. And then there are experiences. And one of the things we're very focused on, my organization, my mandate is really focused on bespoke, targeted experiences, whether that is a customer, whether it is a customer prospect, that is a hybrid. We want to use these avenues as ways to, one, create at the C-suite level, right? As we're really focused on economic buyers and key decision makers and technology decision makers, create experiences and environments where there's a lot of, one, best practice sharing amongst them, right? Not for them to come to and be sold to by us. So we curate these experiences very carefully, very thoughtfully, and making sure like even who is to be in attendance from our side, who is to be in attendance from the other side. Second is the agenda, right? Every agenda is carefully curated and built with being thoughtful about what is it we want to share, from our roadmap. Who are the leaders, product and engineering leaders we want to bring? How do we want to share our innovations? How do we want to use this as an avenue to elicit feedback and input from our current customer base on what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, as well as what are they seeing in terms of areas of like use cases and areas of like innovation and growth and operational challenges that they need us to build for, right? And the other piece of it is for those who are not customers yet, it's a great way for them to hear from happy or, happy customers and how they're traversing this. Because we're looking at disruptive areas of innovation. A lot of these are folks that are like risk takers, right? They have gone on to take risks to embark on these like massive scale digital transformation projects in a very cloud and mobile first, world, taking on cloud first technologies that required them to actually really take a stand internally within their organizations, take a risk to go do things very differently, right? That has obviously had massive impact and ROI, for their organizations. And so here's an opportunity for them to share. And so when we think about it, all the way to the CEO and I, level and our CTO, we sit and we look at this. We don't cookie cutter this stuff and say like, oh, I delegated several levels into the organization. It is because we want to be hearing about these things as we scale, right? And to me, that is what I said at the beginning of our discussion here is that DNA, it needs to be part of the DNA in terms of how we think about customers. So, for me, and my team, right? And here's where we focus when we talk about like experiences and events, whether it's our customer advisory boards, whether it's our CXO exchanges, smaller, executive cohorts and circles where we meet with them, whether it's virtually or, in person. And then the other side of all of technology, development and innovation is we've talked a lot about, we've talked a lot about the known problem, right? A lot of this is to show them the art of the possible, right? When they hear from their peers, they're hearing what is the art of the possible. What have others done? Because it's quite daunting when you're sitting there and you're looking at 150,000, users in your organization, 150 locations across 65 countries, different regulations, different needs, use cases. How do you harmonize across all of this? And so, we care less, I guess, about throwing events. We care, as part of our go-to-market motion, we care more about creating authentic experiences. And then the other piece of it is if I talk a lot about, the paradox of innovation, right? If you only show customers or listen to customers about what they know, you can never show them what they haven't, thought about yet. So it's wearing two hats. One is listening and innovating with them. Two is also thinking about trends and shifts that are coming so that we can meet them where the puck's going to go, right? I think Henry Ford always had, a good quote, right? He always said, if I'd asked people, what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse cart. He would never have built the automobile, right?
For sure.
So it's this innovation paradox and
Absolutely.
leveraging these experiences for that.
Absolutely. He also said, if someone asked if I want my car to be a certain color, can Ford do that? He said, absolutely. You can choose your color as long as it's black.
Right.
So there's still a certain flexibility that I had in mind. But I love the quote about faster horse, because it's certainly skating to where the puck is going to be. Obviously, you take customer feedback, but it's as far as product vision, product roadmap, there's only so much that they can tell you based on where they are, because you need to deliver on what they will be, the industry will be 6 months from now, 12 months from now. But it's interesting because I just want to double click on something that you said, that you are very careful about how you create, and it's an experience. It's not just a dinner. It's not just a presentation. It's an experience, meaning it's probably multi-touch, multi-modal, and you're very careful about how you curate this experience, and what kind of value you bring to the table, what kind of content you bring to the table, what kind of people you involve internally or from the customers. Which it sounds like you're very deliberate and very purposeful in terms of how you approach this. I wonder how you address this question, because it's if you think of a customer journey from not realizing of a problem to understanding of a problem to learning about the landscape of solutions, to identifying vendors, to become a client, to becoming an advocate and ambassador for the client. So it's really, and this journey can take months, in B2B probably even longer than that, maybe even a year or two. And if you think of this spectrum, it's kind of owned by marketing, sales, and customer success. And the delineation probably is maybe different company by company, but in general, you have marketing in charge of demand generation, and sales in charge of demand harvesting, and customer success in charge of keeping customers happy and growing the footprint and growing the business, and kind of upselling, cross-selling, and increasing NPS score and whatnot. And we often find that there is some healthy tension, because marketers want to deliver value and build a relationship, and sales are driven by the quarterly number. How do you bridge that as you curate and those events? How do you bridge this kind of healthy tension between this need to deliver value and educate the marketplace and bring the customer voice in the mix, so your prospects hear from your customers, but at the same time, not pushing them too much, even though the sales team may be kind of driven by the quarterly number or kind of some of the maybe annual goals? How do you think about delivering value, but also being mindful of the business goals as well?
Right. So look, good point. A great question, right? Healthy tension is important, because I think if there's no friction or tension, we become, I would, what is the word?
Complacent?
Complacent. You're right. We become complacent. So I think that's really important. That said, behavior and incentives drive behavior, right? Culture and incentives drive behavior. If everybody is out for their own team and everybody just wants to meet KPIs, I think you miss the mark. The mark is a common goal. The common goal is you want people to understand your products, your technologies. You want them to do business with you. You want them to have longevity with you, right? That's that. So if you don't have that culture where you are thinking and being thoughtful about outreach, you are thoughtful about messaging, you are thoughtful about touch governance, and you're thoughtful about looking at joint metrics of how you are engaging this base of prospects and customers, I think you've missed the mark, right? And many organizations make this mistake because everybody has KPIs to report. So how do we start creating an environment and culture with a single pane of glass? There's one. The other piece of it is, I think at a leadership level, it's having trust. When there's trust and there's collaboration, then the behavior and the incentive structure is very different. course, sales is always going to ask for more leads and is going to say, the leads that you're giving me, marketing is rubbish. And marketing is always going to say, I'm giving you and you guys aren't following up, right? This is a normal tension. I've been a CMO for a long time and I can tell you this. But I think in organizations where you have that kind of like real open dialogue, really looking at the analytics, looking at why things are the way they are, and also looking at, hey, if a sales rep is already reaching out and marketing is already doing this event, how do we start thinking more thoughtfully about collaboration in the outreach? Because what you don't want is that one, the customer or the prospect, I'll use the word contact, not lead, to be receiving 9 emails from one company from 9 different like factions of the company with different, all kinds of disparate engagement, touch points, right? Let's think about these things. And for us, it's even more critical, especially when you think about the C-suite. You're not just bombarding people. Like, if you've got 1 or 2 opportunities to build incredible credibility. And then it's a question of also who in your organization is reaching out, right? What is going to give you, instead of 9 or 10 outreach opportunities, how can you think methodically and carefully about the 1 or 2 from the right people within your organization to reach out? And hopefully you can optimize a chance for success. So I think, my long answer to your question is, it's a great question. And I think you have to maintain that. And I think that means having difficult questions, conversations, and it means leveraging the analytics, and it means building at the leadership level, it starts top down.
Certainly. Well, and as you said, it's going to first principles. It's just aligning entire organization on 1, 2, maybe 3 objectives, and then making sure that everyone is rowing in the same direction. It makes perfect sense.
And
but I know we're coming up on
handoff
time, and I'm really appreciative of you sharing your thought leadership and your thoughts on the matter. As we wrap up, one quick question: 12 months from now, go-to-market leaders in cybersecurity will be thinking about, concerned about, anxious about what 2 or 3 themes, in your view, kind of bullet points?
Well, the elephant in the room, we have generative AI to think about. I think that's a phenomenal 4th revolution that we're all going to be dealing with, working with, embracing, engaging, being afraid of, all of this. And in our space, it's going to reshape the cybersecurity landscape. I think when it comes to thinking about how market is market, when it comes to thinking about how customer success and advocacy organizations engage customers, it's going to change, enhance, augment what we do. In a lot of conversations that we're having with the Fortune 500 company executives that I talk to, AI and specifically Gen AI technologies, they're all embracing them, right? They're embracing them. They want to make sure that they're not being that they're not being super risk averse here, that they want to allow the utilization of this with like explicit guardrails within their organization. So, a controlled experiment, because it's going to happen, right? So how do you learn from it and create an environment? I think at the same time, I kind of mentioned earlier when we started around when the good guys are using good tech, the bad guys are also going to use that tech, right? So how do we start thinking about how, threat actors are going to be leveraging this, how they're going to be targeting differently. We're going to see cyber criminals launch different types of attacks with much more ease, precise targeting, sophistication. And then they're going to be looking at leveraging things for social engineering exploits. So we also have to be really mindful about the other side of it. And at Zscaler, within our space, where we're focused on that, AI is a first-class citizen. We believe you got to fight AI-generated threats with AI-built technologies, right? And so that's a fundamental part of our strategy, our product development and strategy, and as go-to-market executives and leaders. And it's important for us to be mindful of that and embrace, the good tooling that's going to come out of AI-based and generative AI-based tools that are going to really help us accelerate and optimize our work. I think another area is through this, we're going to see the aperture for our buyer audience being expanded, right? For us, from a predictions perspective, and I'm super excited about that as well.
Certainly, certainly. Well, it's a very exciting and scary world at the same time, and I think a lot of people do not appreciate just the velocity of change and how quickly all this will manifest in our daily life and personal life, or as part of organizations. It's just staggering the amount of change that's coming. Kavitha, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you? What's the best way to connect?
I'm on LinkedIn, so K Mariappan. You'll find me on LinkedIn, and happy to engage and in dialogue.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Take care. Thanks for having me, Misha.